Let's get down to the action. Hello and welcome. We are off. It is Mentor for Chris Pikula, and it is another Leovold deck from Rodrigo Togores.
Yes, I'm not too surprised.
You said you had no idea. You're supposed to be surprised. You had Chris on like 10% blue contraption.
No. I had all right. So I will be completely wrong about Chris's Mentor deck unless he has like, I don't know, Crucible of Worlds Zoran over fastball and jammed in there. I'm not surprised about Rodrigo's deck, but no, Chris, I really thought he was going to be on either a wacky contraption or something involving Thorn.
Interesting. No, he's gone with the blue cards. Black Lotus enables a turn 1 Dak Faden. He does not yet know what Rodrigo's on. These guys do not have deck lists yet.
Oh. So it's interesting that he went with the Dak Faden. No, I guess that actually makes the most sense, doesn't it? Because he can't actually have floated a blue.
Right. His only source of red was the Lotus, since he had the basic island, so he can't really get off that preordain. And
Right.
now he's in the slightly awkward spot. Wow, mismatched gushes? Oh, he's on his personal account. I take back anything bad I thought about mismatched cards. He was on his personal account.
You're excusing wrong art gush and wrong border gush because it's his personal account? Well,
It's a pretty foil.
that's a contradictory statement, Randy.
All right.
I will say, though, that I am also going to be guilty of using a suboptimal card occasionally in my real-life account because of, availability concerns.
Fair enough. All right. Preordained finds Mox Sapphire. I didn't see if that was top or bottom. I'm guessing he would go bottom rather than keep a Sapphire.
Well, it looks like he needed to hit a second mana source, and it looks like he did. So that works out great for him. So he's
still no white mana, though. That Mentor is not coming down yet.
No white mana. But he's going to be able to see 5 more magic cards on his next turn. And part of what we're seeing here is the absolutely beautiful synergy between Dak Faden and Gush. Gush put 2 lands back in your hand, and Dak Faden, doing his best impression of Brainstorm circa 2003, lets you turn the lands that you gush back in your hand into real magic cards.
Interesting. So he did discard that Sapphire, which makes me I'm pretty sure he went bottom with the Preordain. Also discarded Source to Plowshares. It's a tricky spot, right? He has no idea what Rodrigo's up to. All he's seen from Rodrigo is a Scalding Tarn at that point. So Rodrigo, he's not on a workshop deck, but he could be on anything blue.
Right. That's a very strong hand from Rodrigo. He's going to be able to Ancestral, defend it with Flusterstorm, untap, snap back that Ancestral.
Not bad. Yeah, he Vampirics to set that up. So sort of like the first Ancestral is only drawing 2 cards, but when you get with the Snapcaster in hand, I like that Vampiric Tutor choice.
Absolutely.
All right. Before the Gitaxian Probe, he's going to Ancestral Recall. Interesting. So I guess he's figures if he finds a misstep, he would misstep here?
If Chris can't possibly, I don't know. This is tough. I kind of like gushing here, actually. Because I think Chris is going to want to gush anyway.
No, Chris seems to agree with you. It means no Mentor next turn, though.
Unless he finds a white source now, in which case he'll get his Mentor this turn.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
He found an Ancestral of his own.
That's a really exciting draw.
We are going to have quite the stack here, but Chris is going to get destroyed by this Flusterstorm. It is going to counter both the Ancestral and the Gitaxian Probe if he responds with it.
And Chris is going to be probably really unhappy at Mindbreak Trap requiring that Rodrigo have cast 3 spells, not 2.
Rodrigo will be on 2 spells. Yeah, this is man, do you respond with Ancestral here? You have to, right?
It's so hard not to.
I mean, only Flusterstorm destroys you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. He's going to go with the Force of Will.
Wow, he's going to use the Force. All right,
I mean, I can kind of see it.
I don't hate it at all. I mean, it's playing around Flusterstorm, and that's not bad. I certainly.
He lets Rodrigo's Ancestral resolve. Oh. He wants to. I mean, the Gitaxian Probe information is super relevant to Chris figuring out what to do with the spells.
What a great hand Rodrigo has. He has access to the white mana to cast his swords, unlike Chris, making Chris jealous. He's going to be able to snap back that Ancestral. He has Flusterstorm. He's going to be able to get on a boat really soon, too. And in 2 turns, he's going to be able to slam down Jace.
Yep. All right. Gitaxian Probe finds Chris an additional Force of Will. And Chris now knows what he's up against. So how does he play it? Well, let's get some more information. And there's the Tundra. So Monastery Mentor is turned on, which you can't Flusterstorm a Monastery Mentor. Chris's line is going to work out really well here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The patience with that Ancestral is really going to get rewarded. He was worried about Flusterstorm, so he let Rodrigo's Ancestral resolve. Now that he sees what he's up against, this looks like an easy Mentor go.
Well, this is why Chris Pikula is one of the greats. He played this incredibly well. I think he was very patient, and it's just working out really well for him.
Yeah, I do not think I could have resisted the Ancestral as a response to Rodrigo's Ancestral. Not when there's Mental Missteps in my list.
Oh, I think I definitely would have gotten destroyed here, but Chris played it incredibly well.
All right, now what does Rodrigo do?
Rodrigo notably does not go for the Swords to Plowshares.
True, he could have sacked Scalding Tarn for Tundra, presumably.
Yeah.
So now, is he trying to go for Snapcaster?
He could go for Snapcaster. He already has a full hand, though. He might just go for the swords here.
Sounds right. Yeah, he can't really afford to snap Ancestral main phase, even though he's got Chris tapped out.
One of the things that is really striking here, I think, is at some point, they're fighting over card advantage, and it looks like Rodrigo's way ahead. Mentor gets slammed on the board. And suddenly the game's changed because it's not just about card advantage anymore. Chris has presented such a huge threat that if Rodrigo doesn't deal with it, all the card advantage in the world can't deal, and he'll lose.
Yeah, I like Chris's line here of pitching the Mind Break trap to his Force of Will. He's going to get a Mentor. He knows about the Flusterstorm. He saw Rodrigo's hand, but he gets a Monk this way, and he slogs his way through the Flusterstorm so that on his turn he can potentially resolve this Ancestral.
This also renders Rodrigo's turn less than effective. Instead of snapping back an Ancestral, Rodrigo is going to be not doing anything to advance his board.
Right.
And this means that Chris knows that he's going to be able to untap and enjoy a glorious Ancestral recall of his own. And it's possible that this lonely Monk token will find a new Mentor.
Well, there's one in his hand. He doesn't need a new Mentor. Kind of needs a new blue card, but...
Well, it would be ideal.
Rodrigo only has one card that Chris doesn't know about, so Chris is... I mean, you got to think about sequencing and when do you DAC, and he's got 2 lands in his hand. I think I just lead with Ancestral. I mean, he's probably tempted to DAC first and maybe find a blue card for his Force of Will, but it's only been 1 draw step. Okay, he is going to DAC first.
Wow. This opens up the possibility of just slamming that Mentor.
Yeah, but the problem is he has to discard 2 of these cards, and he wants all of them. Like, other than the basic island, which one of these cards are you going to discard?
I think it's Ponder.
Right, but then you don't have a blue card for the Force of Will. Maybe it's Force of Will. Maybe probably not against an opponent that you know has Jace, but this is why I think I would have Ancestraled first, just so that I have more cards in my hand to set up a discard.
This is tough. I don't know. I think I like the line of discard island, ponder, and slam down Mentor. But
so you're still not Ancestraling? You're going to give him another draw step? By the way, if you do that, you're probably pitching your Ancestral to Force of Will to stop the Mind Sculptor from coming down. Like, you know your opponent is holding both the Snapcaster Mage and a Jace the Mind Sculptor. In my head, you know you need to cast a Force of Will next turn.
Ooh. That's really tough.
So you have to keep the Ancestral. All right, he goes Island Ponder, keeps the Pearl.
You could also play the Volk and just optimize Mox off of the Ancestral.
Sure.
So he has what?
And now Chris is like, please don't have drawn a misstep. Please don't have drawn a misstep. Success! It was not a misstep. Oh, yeah. Now, see, now there's a Stony Silence that you wish you'd had to discard and a Fragmentize. But
yeah. Wow.
Do you preordain, or is that your blue card for Force of Will?
I kind of want to pitch that preordain to Force of Will.
Yeah, I do too.
It's also tough because he's just about a Dak Emblem range, but he does have 2 cards that are almost certainly better off in the graveyard.
Look, if he had a way to target Jace somehow, I'd love the, Dak Emblem steal Jace, but Chris's hand can't really target anything right now.
I guess, I don't know, he's hoping that Rodrigo plays a powerful artifact that costs 4 mana or less.
Uh-huh. Merchant Scroll as Rodrigo's open. That is interesting.
Let him have Force of Will to defend his Snapcaster.
That's exactly what he's done.
So Rodrigo spends the turn advancing his hand, not the board, while Chris is pretty far ahead on the board. And it's about to get worse for Rodrigo because I think, Chris could either steal that Mox or...
Nah, plus the Dak. You need to cycle through some of the garbage. Stony Silence and Fragmentize both look really bad here.
They are pretty bad.
Note that it seems to be Silent Mentor. Like, that's main deck Stony Silence and main deck Fragmentize. He seems to have taken a lesson from your list from not the most recent Power 9, but the one before that you also won.
I think it's a very strong list, but I'm very biased about it. It's very good. It has game against everything.
All right, Dak found him in a Force of Will,
which
is kind of nice.
So if he actually discards a fetch land here, he's going to be able to play Mentor, play Mox, Fragmentize the Jet.
Sure.
I like that line, actually.
I do too. Yeah, I think you jam Mentor.
Yeah.
And then follow up with stuff. No, pitch a fetch land. Keep the Fragmentize, right?
Definitely. Yeah, pitch a fetch land from the Null-Rod.
Oh, he pitched the Fragmentize.
Yeah. I would rather have a Mentor friend than that.
I mean, I like land, but this deck doesn't usually need a 4th land.
No.
Oh, you know what? No, that doesn't work. All right, here's Mentor. You going to use your Force of Will, Rodrigo? The one you just went to all the trouble of merchant scrolling for? I think, first we do the Snapcaster. Chris, let it resolve. Interesting.
This is interesting. Rodrigo is such a powerful hand. I don't know if... next turn he can cast a Delve spell and a Jace.
What is he? Is he going for the Plow or the Ancestral?
I'm not sure. Looks like he has black floating. Vamp Tutor.
Wow.
Back to that one.
Snapcaster for Vampiric Tutor? That is not what I was expecting.
Wow.
What is he? Does he have like? Wow. What is he Vamp Tutoring for? That's
Red of Night in his deck.
I was thinking, is there some sort of main deck Mentor Hoser?
Man, that would be pretty incredible here.
Vampiric Tutor.
Yeah, I thought he'd either want to draw 3 cards or maybe save it.
Plow the Mentor, right? It could have been Plow.
He could have plowed the Mentor. Yeah, he could have forced the Mentor and used it as Flusterstorm backup. This was like right above Merchant Scroll on the list of things I was expecting. Oh, all right. Mentor's arrived.
Resolved. Rodrigo's saving his Force of Will. Chris is like, all right. Yeah, here's my Mox. I'm going to make some monks.
I mean, does Yawgmoth's Will even do anything here?
Is that what he got?
I'm trying to guess. Yawgmoth's Will, Time Walk?
Yawgmoth's Will is both the Ancestral and the Plow. Yawg Will is not bad.
It's certainly not bad. Rodrigo's going to be...
And you can get your Snapcaster into the graveyard if you want a Yogg-Will. Is Chris doing Rodrigo a favor? Rodrigo doesn't have that much mana, right? No, I guess once you're Yogg-Will, you don't really... The Snapcaster is just a 2/1.
Oh, wow. Wrath of
That's what he got. Wow. Vamp for Supreme Verdict.
Man. That's... So, on the one hand, I don't know. I think I'm too greedy to play Rodrigo's deck. I would have just rather drawn 3 cards than deal with the Mentor.
Same. Completely agree.
This is the second time in this match where I felt that I just don't have the patience of either of these players.
All right, I mean, down goes Mentor. Nothing Chris can do about it.
Supreme Verdict is fine. It comes with sour cream and guacamole, but Chris still has this giant threat in the form of Dak Faden hanging out on the table.
I mean, it's medium giant. I don't know if it's giant. Medium threat.
That's fair. Time for a counter war here.
Chris says, no boat full of gold for you. Chris is doing this despite knowing Rodrigo has a Jace in his hand. And now the Force of Will that Rodrigo got with that Merchant Scroll says, yes, boat of gold. Oh, wow. Mana Drain and Force of Will.
That's pretty strong.
Is he gonna? This is the dream for all blue players, Rich. If he gets to go, nope, wait, never mind. God, can you imagine mana draining Dig Through Time? That, speaking of the dream, I thought he was gonna just mana drain something random and then get to use the mana for a Jace. But
yeah, so I like casting the Preordain here because if you find Gush, then you're just, it's just pure Christmas.
Is he gonna go dig first? I'm with you. I think he Preordain first. Especially if he's got Fluster's Storm in his deck. It's tough, though. I mean, Rodrigo only has cards off the top. You know about Jace, and you know it's whatever 2 cards came off the Treasure Cruise. Turns out that Mana Drain is merely a blue card for Force of Will. But, I mean, Force pitching Mana Drain, untapped Jace, Rodrigo is still totally fine, even if he didn't get to cast Mana Drain.
I think it makes perfect sense for Rodrigo to force Dig Through Time here. That card is just not just powerful, but in this matchup, it's incredibly powerful. I'm a little surprised that Chris didn't opt to Preordain first, just because of how spectacular Gush would be right here.
Wasteland Tundra go bottom, and here's Jace Friend's Prodigy.
Oh, that Jace is okay, but here comes large Jace.
And and Yawgmoth's Will off the top.
What does he have? Oh, he has Ancestral.
It's kind of just the Ancestral. Like, there's a Dig Through Time and a Force of Will.
So, I guess Jace makes more sense.
Let's Jace first.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise we're just building our own Concentrate. Wow, Black Lotus. And
is that card good with Yogg-Will?
Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine it being better. That's going to let Rodrigo get rid of Dak Faden before that emblem arrives.
Oh, right. He even gets to Abrupt Decay the Dak Faden.
Yeah. Crazy. And then Black Lotus gets to happen next turn, and the game's just going to be over. So if Chris
I'll tell you one way the game might not be over for Chris. Does he play Lightning Bolt? Because those Mana Confluence have knocked Rodrigo all the way down to 3.
He's on Mentor Silence. He's not on Lightning Bolt.
Your version had red mana?
Yeah, but I only play 4 red spells. It's a very light red splash of 2 Dak and 2 Pyroblasts in the 75.
Fair. Just saying, Mana Confluence does have Rodrigo at 3.
It does.
It feels like if Rodrigo gets to untap, though, he's just going to go so nuts.
Sword Supply shares might not be. And, this is over. Chris is playing a 0/2 creature. And Yawgmoth, thy will be done, and this game will be over.
God, he even gets the Brainstorm fetch. Fetch out of the graveyard for added value. So much value. He's going to get to cruise also? I mean, his life total is the only thing. Those Mana Confluences aren't really lands for much longer. Unbelievable. Yawgmoth's Will.
Yep. Well,
Doesn't need to be a crazy combo card. Sometimes it's just pure value.
So he's not shuffling away the 2 cards that were on top.
Well, he kind of I think he wanted the ability to mental misstep. Like, his life total is a legit concern. Cracking a fetch land is a third of his life. Okay, pay blue from misstep sounds right to me here. I see your point, though. Putting in the fetch land to shuffle. I don't remember these cards being great.
I don't think they were all that exciting.
Yeah. I think he was supposed to fetch. Especially if he's willing to, if he's committed to paying blue for a fetch land, then.
Yeah. So he can Abrupt Decay Tiny Jace.
True. He's already used the Mind Sculptor, so he's not going to be bouncing it.
And then he's going to have 3 cards that are diggable. So 3, 4, 5.
And he's got the Black Lotus, too, so I think he's got Treasure Cruise mana.
He does. He can Treasure Cruise and also Abrupt Decay.
Is that good? That sounds good.
Seems good, as far as I can tell.
I mean, the Sapphire is obviously an option, too, if he needs to play it.
You know, ironically, of course, if Chris had played that Stony Silence, things would be a bit better for him.
Oh, whatever.
Now, it's worth pointing out that Rodrigo could have used the Mox Sapphire toward paying for the Treasure Cruise, in which case he could have Abrupt Decayed without taking City of Brass damage.
Fair. You see why he didn't play the fetch land, though. He wanted Delve Food.
Well, Chris drew a fetch land, which would have been nice if this Brainstorm resolved, but not so much.
This was a cool game.
This was.
I really liked the way Chris played the... Yeah, I really liked the way Chris played it, and Rodrigo just beat him. Okay, there's the Leovold. We already kind of knew from the name of the deck, but for the record...
First, I think both players played this game extremely well. I don't think Chris has Sudden Shock in his deck, but...
that is a card that people play. Mentor has gotten people with red mana in their decks to play some Sudden Shocks in Vintage. Man, the card's just so ridiculous.
So he gets to draw a card off Leo, and then Rodrigo can Snapcaster back Mental Misstep to defend him, and he's still up a card.
It's a mana confluence, though. It's not really a card at this point.
Well, that's true. It's not the best of cards. But it's still going to put a bunch of power on the table.
Yeah, I think Rodrigo is done tapping mana confluences. I think his last point of life is reserved for that Force of Will.
That would make the most sense, yes.
All right.
So Chris is not... Oh, man.
Yeah, he's not even interested in the plow at this point. There's a Mind Sculptor. He's being attacked by Snapcaster. The dude's drawing cards. Chris is like, all right, fine. Let's go to sideboarding. Let's make sure if we get into a long, grindy game that I have time to win game 2 and game 3.
So Chris is on... He's on Mentor Silence. I think I've played this exact list before in a daily.
Yeah, it's a fine version.
I like
and Rodrigo looks like he's pretty much on his play-in tournament deck.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. 1 Torrential Gear Hulk, 3 Mana Drain.
So I think
3 Mana Confluence.
I was wrong when I predicted that Chris would be on either a Thorn deck or a Crazy Contraption, unless this counts as a contraption.
I mean, Rodrigo's the one piloting a contraption.
Yeah, that's true. Rodrigo's deck is awesome, though.
Yeah, I want to believe. Like, I haven't taken it out for a spin. I should take it out for a spin.
Mind Break crap in it last time? I'm sorry, did he have Supreme Verdict in it last time?
I don't remember.
I think I would have remembered that because that's a double white card in a deck that's just all about having bug colors. So I guess it's everything but red.
Yeah, he may have only had 2 Mana Confluence last time. I saw 3 in this list. So it does sound like he's tweaked the numbers.
I don't remember which of the Nephilims that is, but... Ooh, and Chris's hand is not very exciting. He has no colored mana. That's not ideal.
There.
From what we can see, Rodrigo's hand also only has white mana. So... Oh. I guess if he has that Underground Sea, then his hand is perfectly solid.
I can't tell.
I can't either. Maybe they're still setting up the hand cams.
Yeah, I think
Looks like Chris has 7 cards, of which one is ancestral, but none of them produce any mana of any color.
Yep. Seems likely to be a mulligan from Chris, but I think we're just holding them till we get our ability to view the game back online.
Mm-hmm. So Chris will be on the play, and
there we go.
Whoa. Both have
I
a bunch of cards in play now.
That's what was going on. They were playing.
Oh.
But nobody cast any spells. So here we are.
Well, okay. I guess that's one way this all could have come to happen. Yes.
I definitely saw more cards moving around than I would have expected from mulligans. Sorry about that, guys. But we are now back viewing the game. Chris has one source of colored mana and a wasteland. He has an ancestral, but it's on Rodrigo right now. So this is Rodrigo's third turn. Chris has not missed a land drop. Chris did just miss a turn 3 land drop, right? Chris was on the play this game.
Missed a land drop. How can you not ancestral now?
Interesting. Yeah, he missed a land drop despite having the ancestral in his hand. He didn't. I guess he just drew it and didn't want to risk having to discard. Reasonable. It's an interesting call.
I'm much greedier than either of these players, and I think this just continues to confirm that.
Plus, he's also going to get to ancestral into a tapped out Rodrigo, right? I mean, last turn it was 2 untapped blue mana, right? Chris is from the 90s. I remember the 90s when your opponent had an untapped tropical and an untapped island. You didn't play ancestral into a potential mana drain.
Oh, but now it looks like Chris is going for it.
Yeah,
90s.
Tapped out for Leovold, so time to go for it. Unfortunately for Chris, this misstep is only the second spell. Man, if that Mox Pearl had been this turn and Mindbreak Trap had been turned on.
No, he's got Tiny Jace, actually. That's a really strong card. Now, something stronger than Tiny Jace is, of course, full strength, non-diet Jace. Strip Mine.
Oh, and the Strip Mine for the Tundra. Chris has missed 2 land drops now. Rodrigo can demote Chris down to nothing but colorless mana. He's going to leave it to Jace first because he wants Chris to make his decision about what to do about Jace before he knows about the Strip Mine. Smart.
That's brutal.
That is brutal.
And Chris is not having a fun time playing Magic.
Nah, we're done. Welcome back to the league, Chris.
So, drawing Red Blast just after your opponent resolves Jace is about as unpleasant as last game where Chris drew a misstep right after his opponent cast Ancestral. It's just not where you want to be. It's just like, thanks, deck. This would have been great last turn.
Fair. All right. Looks like Rodrigo is going to be winning this game, and thus this match.
I think Chris is thinking about scooping here.
Everybody, these guys do have 2 more matches left. Rodrigo and Chris are both also going to be playing against you. They're both also going to be playing against Brian Kelly. It's a full round robin within the group of 4 tonight. So yeah, these 2 will come into the booth and do the commentary for you versus Brian.
I like Fate Sealing here. I mean, you just have to prevent Chris from drawing a land. And
oh, gosh. Seriously, deck?
2 islands away. And, yeah, so
he is
Rodrigo is so far ahead. Chris is choked on mana. Rodrigo has the ability to hard cast Mindbreak Trap and snap in a misstep.
Yep.
I feel bad here. My deck is not working out for Chris, and that's always a bad feeling.
Well, I mean, you designed it to be paradoxical outcome, right?
I did not have the Snapcaster, whatever that Gear Hulk is called, in mind when I built this deck.
Torrential Gear Hulk, ladies and gentlemen.
Gear Hulk.
Sometimes you just need the 5th Snapcaster Mage. He's got the mana for it, too. He can just summon it and start turning it sideways.
It does have Flash, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So, oh, wow.
I think you just summon a giant monster. There we go. Turn it sideways.
Oh.
Who needs to flashback an instant? And you can just beat down with a 5/6.
That's a large creature.
Wow. That is a large monster.
Oh, wow, there are little people in the picture, too. It looks like they're looking at him.
He's on display, right? It's the Inventors Fair.
Oh, yeah, that's
showing off
makes perfect sense. Is it okay if I say that I really wish ATOGs were in that set? They had the perfect opportunity to reprint ATOGs.
Yes, it is okay. It does feel like, a 1/2 creature that would let you sacrifice an artifact for +2/+2. That would have fit the set pretty well.
It did fit the set. They printed them. They took jobs away from hardworking ATOGs. I can't hate Gremlins too much, though. They were also original to Antiquities.
Oh, fair.
Phyrexian Gremlins they're as old as ATOGs.
Fair.
And I will point out that ATOG appropriating Gremlin is strictly inferior to actual ATOG because you can't feed him to ATOG.
A fine point. Oh, we don't get the ATOG showdown. It just occurred to me the way the groups come out. We don't get the Bayatog versus the ATOG Lord. We'll have to save that for.
We may well use that at some future point in this league.
Chris again showing more patience than you would. You would have scooped by now.
You have to conserve something for later on in the match.
You Snapcaster misstep for this Gitaxian Probe, right? The Snapcaster is lethal.
Oh, man.
Snapcaster, the misstep. Come on, Rodrigo. You've still got a Mana Drain and a Force of Will. And also, a Mind Break Trap. There we go.
Enjoying this.
Put the man out of his misery.
So...
I mean, I guess Chris is supposed to what? Force? I don't know. So over it.
No, he's still dead if he forces.
Yeah, it's true. He is supposed to right-click and concede the game. Well played, Chris Pikula.
Well, it did not work out for Mentor Silent, but both players played that incredibly well, and that was a good match to start the league on.
All right, couple of blue decks will be on queue, so we'll certainly be seeing our fair share of both of those decks. Here's the standings board as it is. 1 thumbs down for Chris Pikula, 1 thumbs up for Rodrigo Togores.
Yeah, that picture it looks like Rodrigo won his match and Chris lost his match.
Fair, yeah. I've seen it shows exactly the right picture. I don't know if that was a prediction on her part, but
it's perfect.
That doesn't bode well for you against Brian. Then Brian seems happier.
Brian looks much happier. Yeah, no, this portends ill things.
All right. Well, we will let you go play, Brian. We'll find out if Athena's prognostication abilities hold up for the next round. Stay tuned, guys. Round 2 coming right up after these messages.
All right.